This is Ambazonia Calling. News, analysis, commentary, opinion, editorials. Ambazonia Calling is a co-production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. Welcome. My name is Ntumfoyn Herbert, and I bring revolutionary greetings from our studios in Washington, D.C. to all of you, friends of Ambazonia and fellow Ambazonians on Ground Zero and across the globe.
For this Ambaland, for the whole Ambaland, we don't need anything. Mickey Waka for our land from that 26.
2 lockdowns have been announced by factions in the Ambazonia independence restoration quest.
If there is no peace, there will be no going to school.
Julius Isuku Ayuk-Tabe, leader of the Ambazonian Anglophone separatist movement, has been sentenced to life in jail by a military court, along with 9 others of his movement.
That's a declaration of war on any teenager within that territory. The military is going to be doing random killings of our kids.
For now, me animal keep it picking for house. Not say I begin for school. Tomorrow is a cry. I beg you now.
A spirited campaign against school resumption must be only a window we are opening for the world to peep in and appreciate the gravity of the crime against humanity our people face. This is Lambert Mbom.
Fake photos, fake news, and a fake lawyer. Those are the fools on Nyamfuka this week. This is Veronique Vetimfe.
Abina Amine, me, I don't run. Me, my colleague, then say I'm too, run can't join the borders.
We see how we try to bring unity among ourselves. Don't be saying that we go to fight among ourselves while the Republic is busy the planet in them. Now my message for now.
The enemy we thought we had seriously wounded, that we thought was bleeding to death, is very much alive. This is Sia Jimbo Ambi.
Calling for school resumption is an open provocation to the people of southern Cameroon.
Even at a time when colonial French Cameroon officials are campaigning for schools to resume, they still could not hide their bad faith by shamelessly jailing teachers and university dons.
This is edition number 060 of Ambazonia Calling, coming to you this Sunday, the 25th of August, 2019.
Oh, freedom, freedom is coming, freedom is coming, freedom is coming, oh yes, I freedom.
Do not forget, we've got that new segment that's coming up, Big Mob Corner. Jakri Day, Big Mob Day, Tory Long, na time short. We will begin as we do almost every Sunday with our editorial for the week. Here is Bobe Lambenbaum.
What does the end of the Ambazonian restoration quest look like? God forbid that it should be another half victory as in 1961 when the Union Jack was lowered only for the flag of another country, the green, red and yellow colonial Cameroon, to be raised in its place. So how do we get there? It is helpful to remember that the Ambazonian restoration quest is not the first in history. Considered in the light of the 34 countries which have gained independence since 1990, there is indeed an Ambazonian exceptionalism. Ambazonia is the only country that obtained independence before the United Nations but got recolonized by its neighbor. Ambazonians can neither be stuck in a forlorn golden past nor be consumed by a golden future. We must seek to live in the present moment in which we, an aggrieved people, with the world's back turned on us as if we do not exist and as if our problems were an irritant. That is why we, Ambazonians, must give this campaign for restoration our all. A spirited campaign against school resumption must be only a window we are opening for the world to peep in and appreciate the gravity of the crime against humanity our people face. We must do so, aware that the world has little to no goodwill. We must remain aware that the world system, with France, for instance, wielding veto power in the UN Security Council, is rigged against us. We need to know these realities, not so that they can put us down, but so that we can be motivated, as it did 34 countries ever since 1990 in their march to independence. Nothing is impossible for a determined people, but a determined people who cannot agree to work together on even basic things as joint activities are unlikely to be taken seriously by the same international community. A determined people who cannot agree to join third-party mediated negotiations are unlikely to be taken seriously by anyone in the international system. We are locked with La République in a fight in which the international community scores them better than Ambazonia, simply because the world has little to no appetite for new countries. Our job is to whet the world's appetite and to get them to feel hungry to see an independent Ambazonia emerge. We will not create that kind of thirst for the birth of Ambazonia by fighting each other, by everyone with a phone and a WhatsApp or Facebook account acting as a spokesperson for this revolution. We are making a fool of ourselves and our restoration quest by thinking that we can all lead at the same time. La République is not marshalling resources to resolve the problem. They are spending every franc they do not even have to ensure that the world remembers only the worst things about Ambazonians. And some of our people, supposedly working for this revolution, are helping making that case for them with a long catalogue of blunders. On paper, we already look just as bad as South Sudan, a failed state in the making. Our saving grace is to take full advantage of this Swiss-led mediation process to put in place a unified front. It is the one and only chance Ambazonians will have to convince the international community that we have what it takes to run a new country in the Gulf of Guinea. If we fail, we would have no one else to blame but our own damn selves. This is Lambert Mbom for Ambazonia Calling.
What Cameroon has done to us, I want you never to forget. The pain they have brought to bear on this generation, I want you never to forget. Not out of hate, but so that the next generation will remember and make sure they do the things they are supposed to do, never to go through this again.
I will continue to play my part to ask the people of Southern Cameroon to take their revolution into their hands and continue the fight to liberate themselves.
I'm sorry to say, because of France's policies in Africa, in French Africa, the state of La République du Cameroon do not have any pressure on them to find a way to resolve this issue, because they are always thinking that no matter what happens, France will always be there to give them coverage.
Still ahead in this edition, we have The Devil Unmasked with Professor Emmanuel Tatamenta. We have a winner of the Nyamfuka of the Week. And we are not done until you have heard our letter to Joshua. So stay tuned, kick back, relax, and enjoy Ambazonia Calling. This edition of Ambazonia Calling is going to be heavy on news. It's going to be very light on comments, on editorials, and opinion pieces. We will pay attention to three themes. The first being the lockdown that begins Monday in Ambazonia, that's been timed to coincide with what was supposed to be a return to schools in Ambazonia. I think that's not going to happen, of course. We will discuss to some extent the sentencing to life imprisonment of Siseko Ayuk-Tabe and 9 of his closest aides. And our third main theme on this edition is going to be the Swiss-led negotiated settlement. That's all ahead in this edition. Stay tuned. If you have been looking to buy a home in the Silver Spring, Maryland area here in the United States of America, you are in luck. If you are pre-qualified for a mortgage, if you are ready to buy right now, please contact us. Write to ambercalling@yahoo.com. You could be in a home with little to no down payment right now. Contact us. Write to ambercalling@yahoo.com. As we mentioned earlier, this is an edition that is news heavy, and our man for the news is Bobe Innocent here. He's got the first part of our news wrap up for the week.
For this Ambaland, for the whole Ambaland, we don't need anything. Make it waka for our land. From that 26, any person want bear risk, make it try. It will receive them as we don't talk.
2 lockdowns have been announced by factions in the Ambazonia independence restoration quest.
Any driver we want bear risk for pass for roads for the days they will talk, you know, say na lucky for that day. Would you burn your motor?
The lockdowns further the fact that the erstwhile united IG group may remain splintered going forward.
Yes, this one Captain Ra from AMF. I take this opportunity for tell when I say this so that ghost town where they don't put them for on the 26th, 16, may nobody respect them.
We no need for border, we for black tire for FAKO, we need to make noise for air. We are waiting action. Before the 3 weeks will finish, we go year. If some few fighters they come up for who side talk, we no war, we keep calm. We need to make noise, we need to compete. We keep cool head, we need for work.
With one faction of the IG group led by Dr. Sakoi Kome.
Let our people shun those who try to divide us, those who dampen the zeal of our people, to relentlessly invest in our restoration quest.
And the other, led by Sisiko Ayuktabe from jail via the person of Dabni Yerima.
Your interim government endorses the lockdown called by the Ambazonian freedom fighters, aka Ambazonian Defense Council.
Na case with the case we Southern Cameroonian, the na case on that grandmaster juju we can make up for Cameroon, I the affect we. Who get the kind energy, one no save and for do better thing. One no save and for encourage people the way they not fit contribute. One no save and for encourage our people they say hope still day. Why we no save and for advice our people they say una hide for una get better hiding places them. Who they na only for query. Who they only for query. See only small lockdown way they can make and for here. People the way they don't just wake up can want a grrr for still lockdown.
Lockdown 1 by the SACO faction of the IG group is scheduled to come into effect tomorrow, Monday, 26th August 2019.
Finally, now they don't bring explanation. Say now because the dormitory school they go open 1 week before normal school them. Una no see say a good idea that. Then only for can she don't the wait how a person who can't talk until una we can the coach.
While the Sisiko faction of the IG group has called one to start next September 2nd. Both are meant to help prevent schools from reopening in Ambazonia under a colonial curriculum run from Yaoundé. Both offer extensive evidence of the level to which leaders are power drunk.
Chris Andrews' utterances over lockdown dates that have not even been endorsed by anybody but themselves.
The destructive rivalry has evidently dragged in and now implicates divided loyalty from Amba self-defense groups, with another split opening to show the forces that side with the SACO-led faction and those backing Sisiko.
At the overvex we Southern Cameroonians, the one I see some of we don't need to talk again now because we waiting. We don't say and say there is no way we will even be as one. People the way they follow the interim government, now people the way they get love, true love for this struggle. But the rest them, they don't get that true love. That one, even God for heaven bear me witness. If you allow una vex, I don't tell una the truth.
Taking advantage of calls from some in the diaspora for self-defense units not to take orders from civilian authority based in the diaspora, some self-defense units have put out their own announcements in which they sound no different from coup leaders in banana republics.
This is an audio from Gabonese Ground Zero Defense Council. I want to let the international community know and the interim government to know that the forces on the ground have taken their decision.
the defense forces on the ground have decided.
The sorry cacophony almost makes South Sudan look like a practice session, with Ambazonia looking like, if granted independence right away, would be a failed state on steroids. The lockdown campaign to prevent schools from reopening in Ambazonia was already envisaged before Ambazonians and their liberation movements were seriously vexed earlier in the week by the sentencing to life imprisonment of Sisiko Ayuk Tabe and 9 of his closest collaborators.
They were convicted of terrorism and secession activities and fined $500 million.
These sentences are in direct contradiction of the ruling of the Abuja High Court verdict, which called for the return of these leaders to Nigeria.
We strongly condemn the decision of French Cameroon's military kangaroo court, which does not have the jurisdiction to try our leaders in the first place, after violating their rights by abducting them from Nigeria.
Despite the charade, rogue trial, and atrocious sentencing, our leaders are in high spirits and determined as ever to lead this struggle to the only outcome that will be acceptable to us all, that of total independence.
We are putting the world on notice that the sentencing of our leaders is the sentencing of all Ambazonians. This should also serve as an eye-opener to Ambazonians that we have to redouble our efforts in the fight for our freedom and the fight to stop all attempts at seeing us all extinct.
Your defiance have communicated to the world our determination to bring the nightmare of the occupation to an end. Your defiance has also complemented the efforts of our restoration forces, who have been sacrificing in blood and limbs, essentially throwing their bodies between the regime and our communities.
Even at a time when colonial French Cameroon officials are campaigning for schools to resume, they still could not hide their bad faith by shamelessly jailing teachers and university dons. This decision is a clear indicator that colonial French Cameroon is not ready to chart out any negotiated approach to resolving this conflict.
It's 17:06 GMT. This is Bola Mosulo with Focus on Africa from the BBC World Service.
Randy Joe Sarr filed one of the most comprehensive reports on the sentencing on the BBC's Focus on Africa program.
A typical scene at the Yaoundé Military Tribunal. Sisiko Julius Ayuk Tabe and 9 other leaders of the self-declared Ambazonia Republic singing, protesting and accusing the court of bias. It was a 6-hour-long attempt to disrupt court proceedings in their treason trial. The accused persons had earlier challenged the impartiality of the judge in a petition to the Court of Appeal, but the military judge ignored them and used loudspeakers to drown their protest. Amidst the chaos, the defense counsel withdrew from the case.
In the wake of the ruling by the Yaoundé Kangaroo Military Court, Nigeria briefly locked its land borders with Ambazonia, fearing an outbreak of a new round of fighting between pro-independence groups and the colonial forces of French Cameroon.
Wait, though, Nabuari said they go lock border. Nabuari, no, because they're Nabuari. Okay, Nabuari side there. But they don't agree tell people waiting happen before you say make on lock border. They say that wala.
Christian Kalnatume, who had been seen until now as one of those campaigning for schools to reopen despite the war, swung 180 degrees.
He noted to the press that the schools will not resume until arms are laid.
Speaking to the press, Kalnatume pointing out that the sentencing to life behind bars of Sisiko Ayuk Tabe and 9 of his aides will only make a bad situation worse, called the colonial regime in Yaoundé to play its role, aware that the resumption of schools will be impossible before the guns go silent and peace returns.
We have said that The government has a very important role to play. If there is no peace, there will be no going to school.
The cacophony of every faction decreeing a lockdown of their own on their own day started rearing its ugly head merely hours after the verdict of the lifetime imprisonment had been made public.
Oh man, you go to house, so not today, come for the town today. Nothing. Oh man, go house. We're not close. Oh man, pack it and go to house. Go bomb them.
Video surfaced on social media showing restoration forces improvising a lockdown of markets in several outskirts of Bamenda and other cities. Traders who were still learning of the verdict and were not in violation of any ghost town arrangement found themselves packed out of markets in a hurry.
I belong to this now, so don't this so. I think of a stop. Anyhow, all man go house. No walking, shoot up to the air. No walking. Oh man go house. Oh man. Oh my boss. Oh man go house. Oh man. Oh my boss. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man go house.
The deep sense of frustration and raw anger on display by restoration forces in incidents like these rose to panic levels by approach of this weekend.
Inhabitants of Kumba in the Meme division in the crisis-hit southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon are leaving the town en masse.
Reports from all across Ambazonia, including notably towns like Bamenda and Kumba, pointed to the mass exodus of inhabitants.
The truth is, there is that mass exodus, right? There is. The reason why there is a mass exodus is because the governor of the Northern Zone had a meeting with some parents and teachers trying to coerce them to go to school. And after a fight back from the parents with the different insecurity issues on the territory and saying they could not send their kids to school in those circumstances, the governor said that if kids were not sent to school, if by the 2nd of September, kids were seen on the street but not in school uniforms, they were going to be considered as amber fighters and they were going to be dealt with accordingly. So what you would have noticed is that parents are now taking most of their teenagers, irrespective, out of the territory, because that's a declaration of war on any teenager within that territory, which means the military is going to shoot them on sight. The military is going to be doing random killings of our kids, and you even have schools that don't wear uniforms. So either way, your kids are at risk.
Meantime, a Facebook page posting of Manchu BBC, the father of the Coffin Revolution, mocked at various factions whose calls for lockdown has resulted in mass exodus of Ambazonians to the land of their captors.
IG, this question now for you. You don't declare 3 weeks go stand. IG, you don't ask question whether for that 3 weeks we go sit down for house the chop wetty.
We don't turn the revolution on top our people. We kidnap our people, harass our people, torture our people.
I get 11 people from my house now where they don't come out for home, can't they stay with me because of this struggle. Now, you don't declare say we sit down for house for 3 weeks. With that 11 people I get them for house, I don't even get fresh for house. How I go do take money for buy chop? Where 11 people could chop for 3 weeks.
Signs that the bloodshed many feared would mar the lockdowns began to appear before the weekend, with parties to the ongoing war taking people hostage, briefly detaining or torturing them, sharing video in which they brandished threats of what was to come once the lockdowns kick into gear. In Kumbo, surviving members of one family recovered the mortal remains of one of theirs, a school teacher who was apparently murdered for showing support to the back-to-school campaign. Sources within the main self-defense unit in Kumbo, the KUPE warriors, blamed Atanganji fake Amber boys for the slaying of the teacher, a warning that more murders would be perpetrated by the colonial regime in the course of the lockdowns and blame attributed to pro-independence campaigners. In Bamenda, a carpenter with a workshop at Longla Junction and with no evident link to the coming lockdown or the back-to-school campaign became one of the latest victims in the war in Ambazonia, which has now killed over 12,000 people. The carpenter was dragged out of his workshop and executed by colonial forces, according to neighbors and family sources. On ground zero, leaders of armed freedom fighters across the board are telling parents not to be fooled by the desperation or threats of sweet-talking elites preaching school a resumption. Hear it from General Efang of the ADF.
For now, me animal keep it picking for house. Not say I picking for school. Tomorrow is a cry. I beg you now. I got emphasize again on school. I beg me no man not send the picking for school, because when anything happen for your picking, you go have yourself to blame.
The very daring approach to enforcing compliance with the Zero Schools campaign was best advertised on Saturday by the brief taking into custody of the Bishop of Kumbo Diocese, His Lordship Bishop George Nkwo. According to reports, the bishop was briefly held for what Amber Boys described as discussions on Saturday, 24th August 2019. Tensions rose briefly in Kumbo town as priests, nuns, and Christians gathered at the invitation of the continued ringing of the cathedral bells. The bishop was reportedly returning from Bamenda when he was stopped and whisked off somewhere between Sark and Wainama before being moved to a camp somewhere near Kikaikom. This town has been in the news over the past fortnight following the abduction there of two priests, one of whom was held for over 5 days. Priests, nuns, and Christians were staging a protest march calling for the release of the bishop and headed towards Kikaikom when Bishop Nkwo was released.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Public accounts from Amber Boys, including one video posted on social media, showed the bishop praying for and with his apparent captors, who maintained that they had invited the bishop to pray for and bless them.
Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Ambazonia Calling has been informed that the discussions with the bishop centered on the resumption of schools, with Amber Boys reprimanding the bishop for preaching in favor of a return to school in the midst of insecurity and war.
It is a crime against humanity to deny our children a right to go to school in the name of a struggle, no matter how legitimate our case may be. On behalf of the Catholic Church, on behalf of our Holy Father, Pope Francis, I call on all who have lost a sense of the sacredness of life, on all who have no chance, who don't want to give the chance to the young and poor and helpless children to go back to school. I call on you all to drop your weapons of hatred. Today, under the protection of Mary, our mother, and on her feast day.
Last August 15th, Bishop Nkwo had admitted in a sermon on Big Day Maria that he may be crossing a line by daring to campaign for a return to schools, predicting at the time that even he, the bishop, knows he could face the wrath of the Amber Boys.
I am fully aware that anyone who talks about these things stands the risk of being kidnapped or even killed. I am not sure that even myself talking now, I'm safe. I'm not sure.
One of the most important demands made on Bishop Nkwo was a reminder to him of what Christian Cardinal Tume had said about peace and schools.
The government has a very important role to play. If there is no peace, there will be no going to school.
The admission by the United Nations coordinator in Yaoundé after visiting Kumbo that schools would be impossible given the prevailing insecurity. Bishop Nkwo was invited to keep Catholic mission schools shut down. You are listening to Ambazonia Calling, your space for educated news analysis, informed opinions and commentary towards the recognition of a free, independent Ambazonia. I am Innocent Chia. Stay with us.
As usual, Innocent is sticking around to bring us the second part of our news wrap-up for the week.
The European Institute for Peace, EIP, has suspended its role in the capacity building of Ambazonian pro-independence leaders while making abundantly clear that the Swiss-led initiative remains the only channel for negotiations between La République du Cameroon and Ambazonia. In a narrowcast communication with respective leaders, the statement clarifies that the European Institute for Peace has toiled over the decision and deems it necessary to step back in order to avoid any confusion that the EIP can offer a parallel path or similar route to what has been offered by the Swiss. The statement is unambiguous. Only the Swiss-led initiative has the instruments desired by Ambazonians, and only the Swiss-led initiative has the full backing of the international community, including the European Union, the United Nations, the United States, and Canada. Whereas observers laud the decision of the EIP as a step that forces the groups to have to work out their differences and work together, the suspension has been seen as a major setback, particularly to the AGOC diplomatic team that otherwise counted EIP as an ace in the pocket.
We must redouble our efforts to unite and face the enemy like one people with one goal.
A fortnight ago, the leader of the AGOC, Dr. Ayabacho, crossed the bridge, acknowledging, albeit with conditions, the Swiss-led initiative. The Hill is reporting that thousands of southern Cameroonians are among the immigrants caught up in Tijuana, a Mexican border town south of the United States where fault lines of the U.S.-Mexico immigration quagmire are in full display. In a comprehensive piece, The Hill reports that the southern Cameroonians in Mexico were forced to flee Cameroon partly because of contradictions in U.S. policy, only to have America slam the door in their face. It not only catalogues the challenges that the immigrants have faced in a journey thus far, it is not short on what hurdles lie ahead, including long wait times for asylum interviews, sometimes as long as 6 months without any certainty of success, and a high probability they could be deported to Cameroon. Despite U.S. recognition of severe problems in Cameroon, there has been little U.S. action to help the millions left in the crossfire or to address their mounting humanitarian needs. In fact, states the piece, the United States has contributed a mere $300,000 towards the $93.5 million required to assist the 1.3 million people in need. The piece concludes that having recognized and criticized serious abuses of human rights in Cameroon, the United States government must now provide asylum to those who would face certain danger if forced to return home. And our government, it states, would also do well to remember that ignoring faraway humanitarian crises means you may be compelled, politically and ethically, to address them closer to home. The Hill is a foremost news-breaking American political publication that targets American policymakers in Washington, D.C. and beyond. Leaders of respective pro-independence Ambazonian groups in the diaspora are crisscrossing Europe and North America and Africa with messages to reboot the diaspora, re-energize Ground Zero, and begin a series of town halls aimed at explaining the entire Swiss-led process and what will be expected of Ambazonians across the board. Dr. Sako and Ntumfoyn Herbert, who were joined by Dr. Florentin representing the APLM of Dr. Akwanga and by Joel Zamal representing SCOOP of Milan Atam, participated in the first ever cultural festival of Southern Cameroonians in the United Kingdom. Rich in the colors, traditions, music, and food of Ambazonia, the festival doubled as a fundraiser and a massive show of cohesion among Ambazonian liberation movements committed to the Swiss-led negotiated settlement. One of the high points of the festival saw the Ambazonia spirit take possession of attendees as they broke into spontaneous unity chants. One other moment came when Chief Wanki of LEBIALEM chanted to honor Ambazonia.
Ambazonia, Ambazonia, Ambazonia.
He delivered blessings on behalf of the God he serves and the ancestors of Ambazonians deserving to be counted among the holy ones of God.
I open my wings as the mother hen to incubate the chicken, good or bad. As a father, torn between two worlds of the faithful son and the prodigal son. I have no choice.
Southern Cameroonians from across Europe staged a street protest across central London, marching through Parliamentary Square in downtown London, stopping for hour-long protests outside the British Parliament and before the offices of the Commonwealth of Nations.
The lockdown of the Commonwealth in London by Ambazonians.
Efforts by Commonwealth officials to fence the protesting Ambazonians out ultimately led to determined Southern Cameroonians organizing a 2-hour lockdown of the Commonwealth Secretariat.
Ambazonians have just organized a lockdown, the lockdown of the Commonwealth office here in London. There's the demonstration ongoing. It's been ongoing for more than 2.5 hours now. This is the
London City Police was called in, but the lockdown organizers stood their grounds. Backup police arrived in more vans, followed by members of the anti-terror units who threatened to conduct arrests. Still, the protesters refused to undo the lockdown unless they were received by Commonwealth officials.
Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our need. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God be the watchman of this nation. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
In London, protesters accepted the risk of being arrested and jailed than losing a lockdown of the Commonwealth Secretariat. When at one point the leaders stormed their way into the premises to demand to be received and heard on behalf of Ambazonians, at least half a dozen protesters ran into the premises, chasing after the leaders and offering to be arrested and taken to Yaoundé with the leaders if this was the plan of the British police.
This Ambazonian has spirit. Yep. When that spirit possesses you, you know they sleep. And because you get that spirit, when someone do the right thing, even if you don't know the details, you will know that one correct.
Yes, yes.
And when someone bring mago, even if you don't know the details, you will say something is wrong somewhere. Yes. Because that spirit, they in that spirit.
A similar reaction was produced by Ambazonians in Accra when Dr. Akwanga was briefly arrested and taken in for interrogation by officials of Ghana's intelligence services. Mancho BBC has celebrated his 3rd birthday in prison, writing a long letter to fans about the sacrifices that he has made and will continue to make for the revolution. The father of the Coffin Revolution has been heavily criticized even by his own fans for endorsing the back-to-school campaign and at times blasted for confusing between the Coffin Revolution and the legitimate quest for independence by the people of Ambazonia. Evidence that La République du Cameroon authorities in Yaoundé continue unabated with the brutish torture of Ambazonians held at the Kondange concentration camp is making rounds on social media via video. In a short 1 minute 30 seconds footage, a man is commenting about his broken finger. It is his ring finger, a broken bone exposed and protruding away from the visibly infected skin. Finally, permit me correct an error I made during our last edition. I mistook one colonial administrator for another. Mr. Barnabas Mbo is not a 5-star police commissioner as I erroneously stated. He is the colonial divisional officer for Widikum Northern Zone of Ambazonia, and it is within his colonial district that the primary school in the village of Eka was torched by the occupying genocidal forces of La République du Cameroon. We thank our faithful listener who provided us with the details. Innocent Chia for Ambazonia Calling.
Ambazonia Calling. You are in the heart of the news shrine. Call us the Kalakuta Republic of commentary, opinion, and editorials.
Ambazonia will be developed not by those our parents call the long crayons, not those empty big book people who call themselves elites, but by the army of hard-working citizens willing to roll up their sleeves and get dirty.
The foreign and local NGOs and journalists suddenly crusading for schools' resumption are not doing so out of altruism and would be hard put to deny the charge of hypocrisy and self-interest.
Baby girl, I say with you, I'm just surprised. My love for you, girl, I know if it take you out of sight. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? I do anything. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? Everything. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? I do for you. I do anything for you, eh? Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh?
Just one more detail on one of the stories that we had in that news wrap-up, the Commonwealth lockdown. There's evidence that your massive mobilization in London produced the right results, because Dr. Sako ended up being received by the Commonwealth later in the week. He stayed on in London to do that because that had been secured thanks to your massive mobilization. And on Friday, the Commonwealth finally, let's say shamefully, joined the rest of the world in supporting the Swiss-led process for a negotiated settlement in Ambazonia. So congratulations to all of you in London. Elsewhere, Ambazonians, please wake up. Let's do this together.
The cracks. Rastaman, I love it. Everybody love it.
The best lesson in life has been taught by the road sign which says keep right. And if I could keep right for other things, what about my motherland?
Thou shalt not speak ill of a fellow Ambazonian. Maybe Ambazonians can adopt such a mantra.
I grew up understanding that we should not doubt our beliefs, neither should we believe our doubts.
A lot of ink has flown ever since Siseko Ayuktabe and 9 of his closest aides were sentenced to life imprisonment in La République du Cameroon. Barrister Sia Jimvuambe says Ambazonians can learn from the examples of South Africa.
The sentencing of Siseko Ayuktabe and other comrades to life imprisonment is one issue that ranting, raving and venting within the comfort zone of WhatsApp fora will certainly not resolve. It will also certainly not advance the struggle for the liberation of Ambazonia in any significant way. Anyone or everyone who is truly enraged can and should seriously think about doing something beyond this very short-lived, perhaps therapeutic, but otherwise minimally productive reaction. No additional action is negligible at this point. This sentencing is La République du Cameroon giving Ambazonians the finger and trying to prove to the international community that it is still in charge of its so-called domestic affairs. Frankly, I'm not surprised at the outcome of this clownish tribunal. It either came down to holding our comrades indefinitely without any real adjudication of the matter, adjudicating even if in a kangaroo court, and imprisoning them for life, or disappearing them. As infuriating and saddening as it is, that these men might never see the light of day or might be locked away until we, the people of Ambazonia, secure their freedom, La République du Cameroon has just given us our Nelson Mandelas. The challenge for us now is to perhaps look at, learn, and emulate what the South Africans did in this similar situation. They certainly never just ranted, raved, and vented amongst themselves. In fact, they intensified their efforts to create international awareness and told anyone who had ears about their plight. As an 8, maybe 9-year-old, I remember walking into a grocery store in Birmingham, England, with my father, who was then an international student in his early 30s, studying at the University of Birmingham. When I reached out excitedly to grab some very juicy-looking apples, he quickly told me, "No, not those. We cannot buy those." And when I asked why, he explained that if we bought those apples, we would be encouraging apartheid in South Africa. And when I asked what apartheid was, he further explained in the most simple terms that it was a system in South Africa where white people were treating black people very badly and killing them for no reason. I never looked at those apples again. In fact, I made it a point to always check packaging on anything just to be sure the item didn't come from that terrible, evil South Africa. I recall that a good number of my father's peers were also international students from several other African countries, and I would often overhear them talking about the issues plaguing our continent. But the issue of South Africa was the most talked about. I distinctly remember my father taking me once to go and watch a play, or perhaps it was a documentary or film about apartheid. During the showing, I could hear sobbing from various angles of the small stuffy theater, packed mostly with international students from various parts of the world, and some white folks, of course. At the end of the show, there was a deadly silence in the room. Then gradually, people started getting up and shuffling slowly, silently towards the door, not looking at each other at all. None of the usual loud African greetings, laughter, embracing, thumping of each other on the back that I used to see among my father and his peers. Even between my father and I, no conversation. We caught the bus and went home. The images I saw that night haunted me for weeks. I felt the pain, the humiliation, not as a South African, which I obviously wasn't, but as an African kid who had just witnessed unimaginable atrocities being committed by white people against black people, Africans like me, men, women, children. Ambazonians have done a pretty decent job of bringing awareness to our plight. But when I look back at my childhood memories of what the South Africans did to get the world behind them, mind you, there was no social media of the sort we have today back then, I just feel that we can do more. If for any reason we thought we could rest on our laurels, this high-handed action by La République du Cameroon, dishing out life sentences to our comrades, should be a rude awakening, a sounding of the gong that we must all heed, gather again at the market square, call it the Square of Liberty, pick up our battle apparel, tune our battle songs, and fight even more ferociously than ever before. The enemy we thought we had seriously wounded, that we thought was bleeding to death, is very much alive. This is Sia Jimbo Ambe for Ambazonia Calling.
Ramagade, legede, oh, Rabosantala, brosagade, Lika Brazandala, Jesus. Papa Godo, intervene for we, do for we, as you do for the Israelites. The way who they suffer, in the life say you don't forget we. Papa Godo, intervene for we. Orphans are crying, widows are crying, fatherless children are crying, the less privileged are crying. Oh, may we pray together, may we pray. Oh, prayer is a key. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, may we pray. Oh, may we pray. Oh, may we pray. Oh, may we pray.
This is the one show where your ears get to see what even your eyes cannot. Listen carefully to see clearly.
Oh, Abba, Father, bless us. Oh, Jesus Christus, guide us. Oh, Holy Spirit, lead us on the restoration journey of our liberty. So, restoration train is our freedom train.
As Barrister Ntumfoyn said in her report, there's a lot of ranting about the life sentence handed down to Ambazonian leaders in the jails of La République du Cameroun. The Ambazonia Calling team did some more of that ranting.
The outcome, the life sentence, was something that we knew all along. The life of a freedom fighter inevitably ends somewhere in jail. Whether you're looking at Mandela next door, whether you are looking at Martin Luther King, and you can go down that list. It is not incredulous for me to see that it is every one of us Ambazonian who's been locked up, and who's been locked up for the past 57, 58 years. This is where we have been. We have been serving a life sentence. We all have been serving life sentences. They are just serving a physical life sentence that La République du Cameroun has made known to the rest of the world.
Our hearts and minds are with our comrades who have been put in a physical jail, which is Kondangi, ostensibly for life. In truth, we have been in jail, all Ambazonians have been in jail for, ever since we got into this God-forsaken union, because the jail is not that physical, that locale where you're locked up in. It's actually, it starts from, the mental and other aspects of it. And that's why, I always like to quote Richard Lovelace in his poem To Althea from Prison, because in one of the verses it says, stone walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage. And so, even though we were not physically, all Ambazonians were not in a physical prison, we were in a mental prison. This is just confirmation of what we all knew already. That's what they were just angling to do. It's just a ploy by Biya to come in later on and use it during the negotiations that will eventually come up.
The most amazing thing about this is the fact that our people, the prisoners of conscience, have demonstrated remarkable resilience. As a matter of fact, it was very, very refreshing and inspiring to actually get them, rather inspiring us and telling us to put our sustained pressure on the gas pedal and not to give up. Statements from Sisiko Ayuk Tabe and from Patasan were very, very encouraging. If La République actually thinks that they will beat them into submission, then they must have realized by now that it is going to have a counter effect, because our people have been galvanized more than ever before. And it looks like this life sentence, far from beating our spirit, has rather given us a renewed sense of purpose, and we see the need to actually carry this liberation struggle to a logical conclusion. We know that ultimately we are going to succeed, because even those in detention, one would expect that they will be beaten from this life sentence, but that has rather re-energized them. And I think that this will go a long way to, rather notch the liberation struggle to the finish line. Imprisonment is just something that comes with this revolution for Ambazonian. As a matter of fact, those who are in jail, it is something that it is a lofty thing to do. And if you get to BOYO without getting into jail, you should see the need to actually be locked up in BOYO before you start enjoying freedom.
There was a time
Between Naira in Nigeria and Cameroon for almost a year, citizens did not even know where these people were. They were kidnapped from Nigeria and nobody knew where they were. And then suddenly they appear in a place in Cameroon, and then suddenly now they are sentenced to life imprisonment. Is that not a joke? To me, it's just like a big joke, but an expensive one. Sentencing them for life imprisonment for what? What is the crime? What did they even say is the crime that these people committed? To add insult to injury, they are condemned to life imprisonment in a military court. These people have not had any military training. They are not military people. What in the world are they looking for in a military court?
Our youth demo, they can't finish. Our boys demo, they don't finish. From Manfred to Boya, from Bamenda to Southwest. Bloodshed every day, oh, killing every day. People they die every day. Like say they been a chicken. My people lay. Prayer is the key. Oh, may we pray, oh. Make we pray. Oh, make we pray. Make we pray. Oh, make we pray. Make we pray. Ramagade, legede. Oh, Ramosagala, Rosagade. Make we pray. Mika Brazandala. Jesus. Make we pray.
Let's talk a bit about the lockdown. We've got two lockdowns in our hands. One starting on the 26th of August, rolling through the early parts of September, and another one starting on the 2nd of September. Behind the two lockdowns is a struggle for power, a struggle for the limelight, just selfish political power mongering that is pushing people to not even agree on a basic thing like when should the lockdown happen and what goals should we pursue. What's your take? I start with you, Innocent.
One more can one say after the analysis that you gave, there is a lot of selfishness. There is no selflessness that is being betrayed by those that we look up to as leaders and who are making these decisions. Whichever camp you are in, what is at the end of the day, who are the losers? And the losers right now are Ambazonians who cannot go to hospitals because the hospitals are going to be on lockdown, who do not have refrigerators to store away food, mindless about those people who are saying buy food and store up. Even here in the US, you cannot store food for more than a certain amount of time if they cut off your electricity. They're asking people who do not have refrigerators in their homes to store food for the next 3 weeks or whatever. It's a knee-jerk reaction from those who have made these decisions. The other factors on power mongering is an established fact. It is one camp trying to show that we have control of the ground. Mindless about the fact that those who call themselves AMF forces, for instance, these are people that have made decisions in the past that have been extremely questionable and, to say the least, probably favor La République du Cameroun. I'll stop at that.
You must be referencing the part that they call for a ceasefire, which is also something that Yerima, acting on behalf of Siseko Ayuk Tabe, called for a ceasefire at some point, and there has been reference made there and even a call made directly by someone like Choya by saying he's putting people out of business.
That is very true. That is an example that comes to mind, correct?
Let me go to you, Willie Brother Day.
The assessment you made earlier that it's pure, just sheer power mongering that is behind these decisions. Beyond that, it is, if I didn't know any better, I would have said they are enabling La République's agenda. They are pushing La République's agenda because the decision runs counter to the aspirations of our people. Our people, yes, they want a free homeland.
They don't want a home. They don't want to jump out of the frying pan into a fire. How else can you explain that? On the one hand, the first time they talked about, the first lockdown that was talked about was to make sure that schools do not resume, which is understandable. The second one, from the 26th to the, I don't know what other 6 is, almost 3 weeks. I mean, who are we? How does that hurt La République?
Let me do something here, explaining to some extent what has been explained. The point is that the lockdown beginning on the 26th of August says boarding schools will start 1 week before. And if anybody has broken the school boycott, it has been boarding school. So if those students have headed out to school already, are already in the dormitories, ahead of you having a lockdown on the 2nd of September, they would have already started school. They would have already been in their dormitories. So there's a first part of the lockdown that is meant to prevent them from going back to school, and then there is a break in between, and then they come back with a new part of the lockdown. We know that our people do not want to send their children back to school. If they wanted to, they don't have schools. Many of them have been burned down. If they did, they don't have teachers in those schools. There is no security for those kids. There is no home to return to. There are villages that have been razed, and if there's a home to return to, the crops have been destroyed, either burned up or have not been tended while they were in the farm. So there is absolutely not the infrastructure, the logistical infrastructure to support parents to send their children back to school. So, which means that our people, all on their own, in total support of this revolution, can keep their children at home without giving the impression that they are fleeing La République, which they are doing, but they should be able to say, we totally support the idea of not going to school, and do so freely and peacefully, and say this is our contribution to the revolution. This is where the lockdown is counterproductive to the revolution, in that everyone thinks that the revolution is working and is getting people not to send their kids to school because they have a gun to their heads.
I totally agree with you, Ntumfoyn. I mean, these are decisions that, like you just explained now, are perfectly understandable. Why can't they just simply talk to the people who had called for the first lockdown, and coordinate all of this and say, okay, this is, yes, we all agree on this lockdown, but a more effective way, since the boarding schools have been the biggest defaulters. Boarding schools have been the ones that have always violated those activities. And so it is very important for them to be, for everybody to understand that this is the reason why. You see, in fact, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we ought to be able to sell a message that is convincing, that our people can buy into and say, okay, I understand, we understand. But when they make decisions that look like that, instead punishing the people who are supposed to be beneficiaries of those decisions, they're playing right into the hands of La République. And that's my worry.
Okay, let me go to Tani Ozogan here.
I don't see the logic behind the lockdown. I really don't see the logic, because if they want to disrupt school, what if the schools actually decide that after 1 month, they may decide to announce it like an opening day? Are we going to have a lockdown for the next 2 months? That is where I see us using a short-term solution to a long-term problem. As a matter of fact, I don't want us to give an impression to La République that we are basically giving them the excuse, as it was just stated a while ago. La République may say that this liberation struggle is sustained by force, is sustained by brute force. That we are using brute force to sustain this revolutionary spirit, which is completely wrong. As a matter of fact, our people are hell-bent on achieving independence at all costs, and they are willing to make whatever sacrifice they consider wise and effectual to get this goal realized. But when we want to use, we are given the impression that our people are making this sacrifice because they have been, held at gunpoint by the revolutionaries, which is not the truth. And another thing too is that the lockdown gives La Republique an opportunity to actually send their terrorist forces to harass our people. And either way you look at it, it is definitely having a very negative effect on the liberation struggle, because I don't want our people to develop a sense of antipathy as a result of what they perceive as the negative effect of this of some of our actions. When we make these decisions on lockdown, it is something that it should, we should come together and agree as a strategy. All the members, all the various political actors are right there, reconciling their differences and agreeing on a common decision. When it is not coordinated, and when some people are not in favor of it, it kind of dilutes the potency of the liberation struggle.
Thank you very much. And I was just going to recall what happened during one of the former lockdowns when we saw that La Republique soldiers, La Republique occupation forces had the liberty to go into neighborhoods, and we saw video of them going into neighborhoods and pulling out hundreds of young people and leading them away. We remember those images. So let me go on to the monk here.
The last speaker, Paulus again, talked about strategy. That's the word that was ringing in my head. It seems as if the process of creating and implementing strategy on the ground or in the diaspora is kind of in shambles, I would say, because it seems as if people are dragging in different directions. The thing is, if the revolution tells parents not to send their children to school and then do not provide an alternative, then people tend to feel as if they have been shortchanged in a way. An idea would be to try to explain to parents that the revolution will end soon and then give them a picture of what the education system will look like. So that would at least give hope to people, because the one and the most important thing to let everybody who is concerned about education to know is that schools do not operate in a vacuum. So you can't just come and hear school open. There's many, it's a system. There's accessories, there's things happening, there's fees to be paid, there's transactions, there's all kinds of things that are happening just because of school. So the hope to give Ambazonian parents and children is that let's be patient, because when our education system comes back online, this is how it's going to work.
This is a lesson that every Ambazonian should know by heart from real politics. The world won't roll over just to please the hard to satisfy in the ranks of our people. Those who choose to be spoilers will be free to do as they please.
I recognize the fact that even those I consider to be egoistic or to be selfish, I recognize the fact that the intent is good. People simply think I have the best route to Boya, I have the shortest way, the easiest way. I recognize all that.
The search for a completely neutral country will never be successful, because there is no such thing as a perfectly neutral country to serve as mediator.
We should trust in our cause that is embedded in truth and it's God ordained, and we should hope for the best while expecting challenges.
Our job is to ensure that the negotiations work for what we seek, and that our leaders and negotiating team do not sign onto any deal that falls short of outright independence for our homeland. In other words, our destiny is in our hands, not in the hands of the mediator.
Where is the war in southern Cameroon? Is the war at La Republique? No. So who has crossed borders, La Republique with Cameroon? They need to ask the Republic of Cameroon to cease fire, because who also drew first blood? La République du Cameroon. So you can ask someone defending to stop violence.
The job of Ambazonians today is to make the Swiss-led process be the equivalent of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, whose implementation by the United Nations culminated in the independence of South Sudan in July 2011.
Let's turn to the last topic, last theme that we are looking at. And this one has to do with the negotiated settlement, the Swiss-led negotiated settlement. I'm going to start with Bobe Innocent here. The people of Ambazonia could get the ear of the international community through one process, which is this negotiated settlement at this point. Some groups, liberation movements, continue to be opposed to it. Some groups still believe that they can shoot their way to BOYO. Some of them even believe that they could beat the international community into submission. And there is a need here to continue our education with respect to what this negotiated settlement represents by way of an opportunity for Ambazonia, without hiding the fact that there are risks involved with negotiations. So let me let you start.
If we were to summarize the Swiss-led process in one word, it would be misunderstood, which ties in with something that you said about there's need to sensitize the public on what it is and what it is not. Right now, for lack of information, and with those who are opposed to it, out there fomenting the space with what it is not, it makes the task just a little harder. But I think all the same more interesting, because there's always this aha moment. There's always, when you succeed to talk to somebody who wants to listen, who is curious enough, and you really get them to think about it. Here's one example. I'll stay with that example. You have the Swiss, the HD and the Swiss that head out, that is humanitarian dialogue, and the Swiss representatives from the Swiss government that head out to Cameroon, and you have the Swiss ambassador that takes them to the Prime Minister's office. And people all over cyberspace are asking, they're saying that the government or the Swiss-led, the Swiss went to Cameroon to get the authorization of the Prime Minister. And I'm asking myself, where on earth have we been? Are these people from Mars? Are they from some other planet? Have they ever followed La République du Cameroon politics? Do they know, for instance, that a minister cannot fart? A minister cannot go to the toilet and come out successfully and not thank Dia for going to the toilet? A prime minister is sick, or a former prime minister is sick, they go to France, they come back to thank Dia for their lives. And then you expect Dion Gute to receive a delegation, a foreign delegation, officially, and you think that he did it of his own volition? No, that is impossible. It was an order from the head of state to Dion Gute and the entire cabinet to say, look, I have engaged Cameroon in this process. This is what we are going to do. Tone down that your dialogue, that stuff that you are saying there will be no dialogue. Tone it down. Hear from these people, because this is what is going to happen. That's my take. I rest my case.
Thank you. Let me turn to Pauls again.
As concerning this negotiated settlement, I will start by quoting Benjamin Franklin when he stated that there never was a good war or a bad peace. The effects of war are usually excruciating on both sides. So it's a good thing that at least there is a window of opportunity to win ourselves out of this war, especially when we know that ultimately we have a good case and we are going to get our independence without subjecting our people to it, without allowing people to continue to, bring unbearable things to our people. That is why, personally, I welcome the Swiss-led negotiated settlement. As a matter of fact, it's a good thing because we know of cases in history where people have been forced to fight war for a very long time. The Eritreans fought this war for about 30 years. The Sudanese fought the war for about 30 years. So this is a window of opportunity that we have, that we can take advantage and actually, put an end to this conflict, achieve independence of Ambazonia without, without preventing our republic from continuously, putting our people under the horrible things that they have been going through. Our republic has been caught in their own trap. They have offered this bid of a negotiated settlement and, endorsing the Swiss-led negotiation, thinking that Ambazonians will refuse. Ambazonians accepted, and now they are stuck. We have already lost 10,000 people in this war. Are we looking for a possibility where we're going to lose 4 million people? Then at the end of the day, a liberated Ambazonia will be one huge cemetery. The international law is on our side. There is nothing to be afraid of. We should throw our unalloyed weight behind this thing, knowing that at the end of the day, independence will be ours.
Thank you very much, gentlemen of Ambazonia Calling. Just a few things here to add to indicate exactly from my editorial point of view where we stand. There is, in fact, something called a bad peace in this case. Federalism, for instance, would be dealing the people of Ambazonia a bad peace. And there is no price too big for us to pay for independence. So, yes, we may end up with more people dead, but our people need to finish this business in this generation, in this hour, in this moment. We can't kick the can down the road for another generation to have to deal with this. So, yes, we will negotiate, but we will never accept any negotiation that leads to the surrender of our independence. The people of Ambazonia obtained that. It is in the books. It is backed by international law. It is backed by UN resolutions, and that is not something we are going to negotiate. Then there are all the people who think, including our brother Dr. G, who feel that going into the mediated settlement means that you are giving up on other things such as self-defense. And no, you are adding the mediated settlement to whatever else you are doing. You are not stopping anything that you are doing. So it is totally wrong to think that those who have embraced the Swiss-led mediated process have, by the same token, abandoned other options. The press release from out of Geneva was very clear. Our people maintain the pressure on the BIA government, and our people maintain the pressure on the international community, and we ask them to witness to the fact that our people will never let their survival anymore hang on the benevolence of someone else, including the benevolence of the international community. Drum roll, please. And welcome to our Nyamfoka of the Week segment. We don't do foolish, but when there are capital fools out there, we make it our duty to find them, and every week we crown one of them the Nyamfoka of the Week. Veronique Ntumfoyn in the house. She's got our kings and queens of foolish for this week.
Finishing in third place this week is a man who wants and seeks so much fame in this revolution that he is willing to and has often lied in the hope of achieving it. This week, short of actually importing and transferring any weapons to ADF, self-defense units in Ambazonia, he simply photoshopped pictures from the websites of the South African police and claimed that the weapons therein were fresh consignments of arms delivered to ADF fighters on Ground Zero. You have guessed who we're talking about. ADF spokesperson Tapang Ivotanku is this week's third place finisher for the crown of shame, the Nyamfoka of the Week. Finishing in the position of runners-up this week is One Cameroon TV and the anchor of their so-called Cameroon Intelligence Report. This week, One Cameroon TV made a series of outrageous and fabricated accusations against Chris Anu, his brother, and his mother abducted and held incommunicado by the evil Biya regime. One Cameroon TV claimed that Chris Anu's mother has collected over 120 million francs CFA in ransom, that she has wired 60 million francs CFA to Chris Anu and 30 million francs CFA to his brother, the Field Marshal Oliver Leke. The other claim was that Chris Anu's mother has sent 4 of her children abroad thanks to the ransom business. One Cameroon TV did not stop there. According to them, Chris Anu's mother is using 70 billion with a B, 70 billion francs CFA to run her businesses in Yaoundé. The other accusations he had against the junior brother was that Field Marshal has raped, killed, and mutilated over 89 young girls, using their mutilated bodies to do odeshi. The real reason One Cameroon TV put out this bunch of lies was to try to sell the story that things have returned to normal in Ambazonia and to encourage parents to send their children to school. This is the kind of content that would make Radio Mille Collines seem shy. One Cameroon TV is this week's second place finisher for the crown of shame, the Nyamfuka of the week. Nyamfuka them all. Winning the crown this week is a Douala-based barrister at law. His failure to get a simple court case going successfully against teachers, parents, and school proprietors brought him into the hall of shame. He has never left that hall of shame. As with the unsuccessful court case, Julius Achu swallowed his tongue when a TV host invited him to explain what Paul Biya has done over the last 10 months to improve the living conditions of his fellow citizens. Instead of answering what is a simple question for everyone else, Julius Achu basically took to searching the studio for a fire exit. He then resorted to complaining to the TV host, accusing her of asking him the wrong questions. Apparently, this Mutuku would have preferred to ask and answer his own questions on the TV set. By way of answer, he said he did not want to discuss Biya, the man he called his champion. He finally claimed that Biya had brought democracy to Cameroon, that Biya could not be expected to perform magic in only 10 months. He added that the mere fact that Cameroonians breathe is thanks to Paul Biya. This is the kind of foolishness that wins the crown every day, twice on Sunday. That is why Barrister Julius Achu is this week's winner of the crown of shame, the Nyamfuka of the week. Nyamfuka them all. This is Veronique Vetimfe for Ambazonia Calling.
Big Mob Corner. Njakri Day, Big Mob Day, Tory long, na time short. I say an alarm and bomb this, now you bring with Big Mob today.
Una don't hear yourself, but make a start with this story for lockdown. Now wow, Ambazonia leader them no fit gree which day for start lockdown and how many day for organize lockdown. Really, no be shame this. Na so IG for Sako the Dima with IG for Sisiko for saying na me I get power. Them no the shame self. For finish, people for Ambazonia them go get minimum double. I don't mean double like double blessing. No. I mean say people for Ambazonia them go get double balok. Self-defense where he support Nasako go fight self-defense where he support Sisiko and ADF and Ambazonia and then go pay the price. I never add the fact self say Kamambro them where then they for Paul B.I. back go join inside, kill the one the way Sako and Sisiko and ADF is self-defense they miss up. This lockdown and lock mop. How Ambazonia leader them go order lockdown where them be fit campaign with their own people for boycott school them? How lockdown fit day way is supposed for benefit na Ambazonia and them? Then the Ambazonia and themselves now them they run their country, they go for La Republique, his own country. Now we can ballock this now. No one not think say are the opposed thing way if he give you independence oh. As Abi say if you talk small thing against leader them for this struggle, them go talk say you been a La Republique. But now question way me at the ask oh. How we go get independence for lockdown now, my brother and my sister them? The palaver, they worry me plenty. If Cardinal Tumi PC say peace no go come back, school no fit go back. When I think say Cardinal Tumi talk so because he get self-defense group where he go enforce him, or when I think say he talk so because he go use lockdown for enforce him. Cardinal Tumi talk so because he sabi say Papa and Mami them for Ambazonia, them no fit send picking for school inside this war. Make man no think say I be one say me we begin praying at that's all Rosaria for get independence so no be so I talk. My owner say we for make lockdown short like ghost town short. When lockdown short it is sweet. Long lockdown no fit help Ambazonia and it go only put with people for inside plenty trouble. Long lockdown na only La Republique way go help. It go tire with own people, make them turn hate the whole thing pass mark. Other trouble for this lockdown I say, you go hear say them the lockdown, but man not to tell you how if Ambazonia they sick, how them go take and go hospital. If chop finish for house, how mommy them go for farm, go move small thing for they come more chop. They never tell una how many sugar cane them, they don't give them for that picking them, where them go defend homeland. Make them take fight Kamambro them for Pobia. All thing we una the year na say one operation don't start, then it don't finish. Accountability no day. Na so una year my trip to Boya. Before we want take plane self for reach for Boya, money don't finish. When I hear say AK-47 campaign, people they fight on top say na me I get up. For finish, AK-47 campaign never tell una say na stick them this way, we don't send them for ground zero. Except say the other day, na Matatapang Ivo Tahanku, na he go thief picture for South African police put them for Facebook, say na sugarcane this way them just supply from ground zero. I no go put my mouth for sniper project or contender force, that one no concern me. Make I close and run before some man take Molongo follow me there. I say my country people, we don't see how even Mawe like power. That tyrant like Paul Biya don't give power for other man. He leave the people make them work for a place. We don't see how Paul Biya don't give power. Say Oga Madame Chantal make na he the whole Biya a hand for put and for up when the poor, sick and dying Paul Biya no fit salute people them. We don't see how Paul Biya don't give signature for Ferdinand Gongo for sign all book for a name. For the Ambazonia who the bill had to see how man way they from Gata no leave man way they don't delegate and make it carry revolution go for before. Make it do even small thing when Gata never talk say me will put them for power. Na trouble. Now what for una ya Ambazonia? Una day. Now una deny for vote Gomnya. Na so Gomnya don't vote una. Any man will get microphone, will get WhatsApp group if he give order for this revolution. Myself for year, I fit give my own day for lockdown now. So if una just talk so, pim, I declare my own lockdown. Make man no hear this my talk if it take vex carry rope go hang o. Adjust the langua na tori How I take my own 2 eye look am. My beren will store. I said to read day na time short. Na me when I'm brother Lambert Mbom for Big Mob Corner and for Ambazonia Calling one knock this story so.
My brothers, my sisters, Ambazonia people. Na she masha for Ambazonia this. I salute one and all. For this sound where I bring up. We don't say who they like Papa God. Because that Papa God will be give Ambazonia land. And I salute the whole IG. I salute the whole Ambazonia people. I salute President FAKO personally. I salute the whole council for defense for Ambazonia. I salute all my colleagues from Northern Zone and Southern Zone. I salute even my mommy waiting for prison. I salute my sister waiting for prison for Yaoundé. Oh, yes, it is for female shy eyes.
Last August 18 marked the 3rd anniversary in jail of BBC Mancho, the father of the Coffin Revolution. On that occasion, he sent out a letter to Ambazonians. Here is Willie Brotade with that letter delivered in studio on behalf of BBC Mancho.
All for one, one for all. Today, August 18th, I celebrate a 3rd birthday in jail. 2017, 2018, and 2019. Many who came behind me and with even bigger charges have been released. I remember ignoring many calls to escape arrest. Even security officials offered to help me escape, but I refused. After the arrest of comrades Bala and Fontem, I got over 200 calls and texts telling me to escape. On the night of my arrest, I was informed they were coming, but I chose to stay and be arrested for your sake. In court, I told them to sentence me to death and free my brothers. I have turned down several offers which do not improve the lives of my people. I would have left prison since 2017 if I wanted to leave my brothers behind. I have always put the people first. I remember attending my first SCNC meeting as a college kid in 1999. We later formed the Anglo-Saxon Youth Higher Council. Slowly, I can celebrate 20 years fighting for my people. It's been a rough journey. I have been summoned to every detention center in Bamenda or been jailed there. I have slept in 5 different detention centers in Yaoundé. My recent kidnap to the GSO headquarters almost made me to give up. While I encouraged others to be strong, I was feeling that the Lord could call it off as the pain became unbearable. I remember kneeling and praying before going out on the 21st of November 2016. I remember telling God, if it is necessary, let me be killed. That is why you saw me moving towards bullets when everyone pulled back. I have had several chances to travel abroad, but gave them to others because for me, the fight is back home. I am proud of my people. In our minority, we have put up a big fight against injustice. The forces of evil will use violence yet unseen to make us give up. But you must never give up. Never. As we move on, we must take off time to evaluate and re-strategize. We must also know to retreat when necessary and when to bounce back. We must tolerate each other. When you disagree on tactics and policy with others, it doesn't mean they are compromised. We will never reason in the same way or have the same tactics, but we are united in purpose. Let's tolerate each other and disagree to agree. We must start examining the demerits of the social media on the struggle and make adjustments. The diaspora has been wonderful. If not for the disunity amongst them, we would have moved miles ahead. I still wonder what makes unity so difficult amongst people we thought were the most educated. We have taken several measures that only increase pain and suffering on our people. Our struggle must be people-friendly. Each day, the people must see and feel why we fight for them. Our strength lies in the support of our people. They must never doubt if the struggle is for their good. The road may be long and bumpy, but we are ready to walk it. This is Willibrod Ade, reading in studio for MANYU BBC.
This week, 33 years ago, an illustrious son of Ambazonia, Dr. Bernard Ntumfoyn, passed into eternal glory after decades of hard work building what he hoped could be a beautiful country. We honor Dr. Fonlon here on Ambazonia Calling as a hero who lived several decades ahead of his time. Dr. Fonlon exhorted Ayijo for a permanent dialogue in order to build a strong edifice. His offer was despised and neglected. As a result, the two peoples will soon have to settle their differences at the table of negotiations, not of dialogue anymore. The edifice built on sand in his time has collapsed like he predicted, unable to withstand the tempestuous winds. The stubborn Cameroon that would not listen to the wise counsel of Dr. Fonlon is now chasing the corpse of the failed union into the grave from which Ambazonia will rise. Thank you, Dr. Fonlon.
Since the days of John the Baptist, the kingdom of God suffered violence. Let the violent one takes it by force. You're on the ground, king. Boom. You the cry, about what the cry. Don't tire, about what why. Mama, they cry, we are the cry, about what they cry, we the cry, wanna free me, Mama, they cry, we are the cry, we the cry, wanna free me, Mama, they cry, we are the cry, we the cry, wanna free me. Tired of this like Republic una free. Amango today inside pay you know the free. We president on the side say all man of yay. Grand ambition fuck that slogan no yay. Presido the pay jaga jaga. Una take all in the we for scatter. They need 102 students for send address. Una select 2 Anglophones escape address. Bia young vision treason. Escape uno why man show BBC they for prison. They don't some all we then start for colors Anglophones. Fuck up the government, we ain't tools. Minister for Communication, no fit talk good English. Southern Cameroon independence, that's my wish. No good third roads, no seaports, no light, no water, no airports. President, you overget fake promises. Wait to happen, feel like you bring us diseases. But men are the cry, we are the ask why. You don't go for that chair, you don't go shake, you go die. Men are the cry, we are the cry. About what they cry, we they cry, wanna free me, Mama they cry, we are they cry, we they cry, wanna free me.
Voice in the TV again. Voice in the handler. Voice in the France. Voice in America. Voice in South Africa. Voice is Cote d'Ivoire. Voice is Cameroon. Voice is Congo. Ghana. Tanzania. Kenya. Okay. Voice Ambazonia.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Because you have your army of occupation out in West Cameroon, you believe that
when the people will rise, even if you took the whole of the French army and added to yours, you will never bring them down.
And I call on all Cameroon soldiers to lay down their arms within Ambazonia and to turn their arms against the very system that has made them slaves in the land of their birth.
For more stories from around the world, go to the World Wide Web at themissionstribune.com, compassfreepress.com, and africafreedomnetwork.com.
Here is our letter to Joshua.
Dear Joshua, did you just lose the cardinal? That statement was pretty strong about no peace, no school.
If there is no peace, there will be no going to school.
You thought you had a partner in him. That's exactly what you think before you jump off a cliff without a parachute. You're on your own, Joshua. No saving grace. No escape route. No rescue team coming for you. No battalion of the French coming to save you. Just a rebellion brewing very gently among the peoples of the Bread and Sardine Republic. And just across the border, the Amber Boys begging that you be delivered to them in that chant, where them day, where them day. So there's a lockdown in Ambazonia, and what are you going to do about it? I mean, this is not Bread and Sardine Republic. This is not crayfish business. Now, man, way to go, Obenekang na isabi price on bunga. But Ambazo is not Obenekang, and this is not crayfish country. The people of Ambazonia rise against recolonization, annexation. We deny totally that we are any part of crayfish and Janga Republic. We defy you. So they have done the lockdown. What shall you do? As your man Jacques Famundongo used to say, vous allez faire quoi? Oh, I was forgetting. You and Buhari are working on that plan. That's why you shut down the border. You're trying to do what Nigeria's General Gowon did to Ojukwu during the Biafra War. Shut down the territory, cut off the supply of weapons, prevent Ambazonian fighters from having a launching pad or a training ground anywhere on the borders with Nigeria or in Nigerian territory. Hem them in, close in on them, and shut down the revolution before the United Nations General Assembly happens. How intelligent, Joshua. How very smart. And so you tell the international community that you're going to deal with this internally. But not so quick, not so quick. The people of Ambazonia know what they're doing. Send your dogs of war in. Send your killer squad in. Send those bees in. But get ready. Make sure the bees bring the body bags with them. In the same way as honey is eaten, so the bees will be. It is amazing how you and your terrorists in power in Gola openly confess that you intend to commit war crimes. So at the beginning it was, everybody get out of the way, otherwise you will be a terrorist. And just this week, your Yeye Lafrique up in the northern zone has just said every teenager who is not in a school uniform will be taken for an Amber Boy and will be executed. Abba, Joshua, this is how a man goes to the International Criminal Court. We already knew that you were a criminal. We already knew you were a terrorist. We already knew you were going to the International Criminal Court. But we did not know you were going to be actively knocking on the door. They do not have to come with ships and tanks and fighter teams to get you out of the bunker. You are knocking on the door of the ICC all alone and asking for admission. That's intelligent. That's smart. A man should not run away from the inevitable. It's like that. You age towards it. You grow towards it. There's no avoiding it. There's no avoiding jail for you, Joshua. There's no avoiding the ICC. This is history making, Joshua. This is the very first time in all of mankind's history when a tyrant walks himself to the gate of the ICC. They have to give you credit for this. We will remember to tell them to give you credit for this, jail credit. No, you don't have to thank us. What are friends for, Joshua?
From our studios here in Washington, D.C., our producer is Jeff McCoy. Our music today is from Ken Wanaku, the monk from Balikumato, William Ford, an ambassador of blessed memory, Eric Matisse on the web at soundimage.org, and Prince Ajua Alemanji of Ajam Sonic Kitron, USA. Ambazonia Calling is a joint production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. You can find us on the web at www.themissionstribune.com, www.compassfreepress.com, and www.africafreedomnetwork.com. Next Sunday is another day. Until then, keep the spirit, keep the faith, keep up the fight for justice and independence for Ambazonia. Stay Amba strong.